You just can't have all chapters end with your characters thinking wistfully, if only, or what if. I just ended this chapter like, ugh!
You know, so I've got a good chunk done.
Oh my god, that is a big spider.
Guitar ready for me?
I'm so proud of it. Hello everyone and welcome back to Grayson's Bookmark. Here on this channel I'll make all types of writing and bookish content, and today's video is a writing one. Specifically, we are figuring out why my endings suck. Why am I sitting on the floor? Well, sometimes you need to shake things up and keep yourself on your toes. And also, I got tired of my same filming location at my desk, so we are sitting on the floor for today's video. I also think this guitar was a good idea visually, but I can sense the vibrations coming off of it, so I'm gonna move it. And besides, it's gonna help anyway because we're gonna need a lot of visual space for this video. Oh yes, I have the data. Okay, so where were we? So today I'm talking about my chapter endings. I have noticed a trend, not a huge trend, but some of my chapters are suffering from meh syndrome. And that's what this video is hoping to address and uncover why. This video will be helpful for you if you also are having a hard time with your chapter endings. And yeah, by the end of this video, I hope to provide you with some advice as to how to make your chapter endings better. To wrap up this intro, I've been working on my project Seaside, which is a YA LGBT+ romance about two boys falling in love and learning how to be better people about it. So anyway, I've been reading through the 4th draft and making notes myself for the 5th draft. In fact, I've already started the work on it. I've done, all the small edits I possibly can, which now leaves the hard stuff. So it's time to fix all the chapter endings that are like, just not doing it for me anymore. And I wanted to analyze what exactly was going wrong with these endings. So this video is in 3 parts. What is a bad ending? What is a good ending? And how to make my bad endings better. And hopefully the end of this video will also give you some advice for how to make your endings better if you're also struggling with that. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the bad. I've got so much data. Luckily, it's not all 50 chapter endings that are not sparking joy for me at the moment. It's about 12. And I identified bad chapters as ones that left me feeling like I wasn't getting a sense of completeness. They kind of just fizzled out instead of like hitting home. So like that kind of like meh feeling. And I wanted to figure out what was causing this, like what story elements were leading to this feeling of cut off momentum or just fizzling out, and just, I don't know, figure out why chapter endings are so difficult to write. There's a lot of noise upstairs today. If you keep hearing neighbors and stuff, I'm sorry about that, and I can't help it. But I thank you for your patience. So the method. I went back to the very last lines of each chapter that I'd written, and this was no more than a paragraph, and I broke it down as to what exactly happened in those final lines. And I broke it down based on dialogue, reflection, action, or otherwise weak metaphors. So I'm gonna break it down by each chapter to kind of give you a round summary, round example set of what was going wrong in these 12 chapters. Let's bring my laptop into the equation and scoot over so I can display it for you. Okay, so take a work. Chapter 9 ended on dialogue. Chapter 20 ended on dialogue and then reflection of past events. Chapter 23 ends on a non-specific feeling, so like weak emotions. Chapter 25 ends on another character's actions. Chapter 26 with an emotionally unclear ending. Chapter 31 ends on another character's actions again, also with some unclear emotions. Chapter 32 doesn't have enough meat. Not enough story. Chapter 34 has telling and a weak metaphor. Chapter 38 ends on another character's action and a weak metaphor. Chapter 39 ends on an unspecific action. And lastly, chapter 38 ends on a decision, then a weak metaphor. Okay, so that was a lot, but there are definitely some trends here in these chapters. And I can divide my bad endings into 3 categories. So we've got main character is not doing the final action or is passive, weak figurative language, and emotionally unclear endings. We have found something. Yes. This section of the video is going to contrast with the first one. Now, with the analysis I've done, I've decided to break down the remaining 38 chapters into categories instead of going through them one by one. That would take a long time. So yeah, here are the 7 or 8 categories that I've divided. Thank you, Canva, for this lovely chart. Okay, so as you can see at the top, the majority, or like the most common category, was ending on an action in progress or a cliffhanger. This is good. It clearly has momentum, it leads into the next chapter, it keeps people reading. Good. Next is gathering resolve or otherwise momentum. This could be like ending on a realization or ending on a, okay, I'm gonna do this now. And I also thought that was a good way to end a chapter. Next, number 6, these technically could be 2 categories, but I decided to lump them together, and it is when a chapter ends on either a reflection or an action, but they felt valuable and connected to the events of the chapter, or they were leading it in a interesting direction. The next 2 are action to reflection and reflection to action. This is a combination of 2 events that are related to each other, and it felt like it was also carrying momentum. Next, we have dialogue into action. This wasn't very common. It's just another way that it felt right when it ended like that. Next is wistful thinking, which I'm very proud that it's only 2 chapters. No, I'm sorry. You just can't have all chapters end with your characters thinking wistfully, if only, or what if. You can have that sometimes, but like, I'm glad I kept the number low because I don't know, it just seems like a weak way to end a chapter because it's not really carrying through into the next one from my perspective. And the last was a very small category. It was dialogue to reflection. From this list, you can see that I tend not to end on a reflection very often. It's more focused towards actions or things that are driving the plot forward and not realizations and things like that. And that's a breakdown of all the chapters. But what makes a chapter ending good? Honestly, it can be just vibes. It's very subjective sometimes. You might just get the feeling that this is ending right, but I personally also have to get a feeling of momentum or completeness of a chapter, but not too complete, or else that will make someone stop reading. We either need a reflection point that encourages momentum, or something that physically, or I guess literally, metaphorically, makes the plot go forward, like keeps it in action. Momentum I define as a feeling of leading into the next chapter. This can sometimes happen with a cliffhanger. I did it, quite often in my good chapters, but spread out through 50 chapters, I don't think it's that bad. And the feeling of completeness is a type of result at the end of the chapter, like something has been decided or an action has been started. Something has come to a realization moment, but this type of ending can't feel too close or else a reader might stop reading. So it's a delicate balance. Need my emotional support water. I can hear the humming of the air conditioners outside. Okay, so the humming and background noise didn't really stop. So we're gonna do the rest of this video on my desk, which is fine. It wouldn't be one of my videos, a little chaos in it. So anyway, how do you fix bad endings? Welcome to the 3rd part of the video. Or I guess it's more like, how would I fix my bad endings? Because it's gonna vary from book to book. But luckily, I've already made notes as to what I need to do. And basically, to the chapters that feel unfinished, I'm going to be adding just a little bit more beats. Others need more reflection, better emotional maturity, less weak metaphors. One thing that just drives me crazy thinking about it now is that I was ending chapters where the main character is just watching another character do something, like walk away or like leave the room, or just something that it makes them such a passive character. And it's a good thing I noticed it, because I need to fix that. It's not bad to have a main character watch something and be passive in the moment, but it's bad when they don't have their own reaction or reflection or action towards it. So yeah, I'm going to be fixing that. Tips for you to figure out good versus bad endings and how to start the process of fixing them. Go through the ends of all your chapters and try to parse out trends in the good chapters and the bad chapters. What makes you feel like this chapter is bad? And if you can't figure it out just from reading it or just vibes alone, try going through the elements that are at the end of your chapter. So go through that last paragraph or last couple paragraphs and say, okay, this one ends with dialogue, or this one ends with dialogue cliffhanger, and like figure out if there are any trends in the ones that you find good and the ones that you find to be not so good. Watch for that feeling of momentum and completeness and satisfaction when you get to the end of a good chapter, and try to figure out how you did that and what makes a good chapter. And that can be many different things. For me, I have 7 or 8 different categories of what makes a chapter a good chapter ending, and that's fine. And in fact, variety is encouraged. And lastly, take all this advice with a grain of salt, because I know this is subjective. And obviously, like, what makes a good chapter ending is going to vary by genre. Me personally, I'm writing a semi-literary, contemporary, YA queer book, and you know, conventions might be different between genres, like thrillers. I'm sure there's a garbage truck going by. Conventions might be completely different for something like a thriller or an adult fantasy romance. So none of this applies to your book. Just write until you feel like you've landed on a good ending, and then try to do it again. I believe that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe so YouTube will show this video to other writers like ourselves. Let's demystify the process of writing chapter endings, because dang, it's hard to be a writer out here. I feel like no one talks about this, and it should be talked about more often, because endings are so opaque sometimes, obtuse, and you know, there is no one formula. But I hope this video has helped you navigate the murky waters of chapter endings. Let me know if you've been struggling with chapter endings, or any advice you might have to end a chapter nicely. Like this video if you want to see more writing analysis. I hope you like my graphs today. That is all I have for you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!